Constantinople did not become powerful because it was simply beautiful. It became powerful because of where it sat. The city controlled the narrow passage between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean world. On one side was Europe, on the other was Asia. Below it was the Sea of Marmara. Above it was the Golden Horn, a deep natural harbor that could shelter fleets. This meant the city could watch ships, collect taxes, move armies, and protect trade. Before it was Istanbul, it was Constantinople. Before that, it was Byzantium. The names changed, but the reason people wanted it stayed the same. The old city stood on a triangular peninsula, with water doing part of the work that walls normally had to do. It was not just a city on a map, it was a lock on one of the most valuable doors in the world. Byzantium began as a Greek settlement, but in the 4th century it became something much larger. Emperor Constantine chose the site for a new imperial capital and rededicated it in the year 330. The choice was practical. The old city of Rome was far from the richest eastern provinces. Constantinople was closer to the Black Sea, the Balkans, Anatolia, and the trade routes that fed the empire. It was also easier to defend. Water protected most of the city, while the landward side could be sealed with walls. Constantine's new capital was meant to say that Rome had not ended. Rome had moved. Over time, the city filled with forums, palaces, churches, ports, aqueducts, markets, and imperial roads. The Hippodrome became a political theater, where crowds, factions, emperors, and soldiers all met in public view. The city was not quiet stone. It was ceremony, argument, trade, religion, and imperial propaganda packed into one peninsula. It became the capital of the Eastern Roman world, and later the heart of what we call the Byzantine Empire. The most famous defense of Constantinople was the Theodosian Walls. Built and expanded in the 5th century, they guarded the western side of the city, the only side not naturally protected by water. This was not one wall. It was a defensive system: moat, outer wall, towers, and a taller inner wall behind them. For centuries, attackers reached this line and failed. Arab armies, Bulgarian forces, Rus raiders, and others all discovered the same thing. The city was hard to starve, hard to surround, and brutally hard to break. Earthquakes damaged the walls more than once, but the city repaired them because the walls were its life insurance. In a crisis, the survival of the empire could come down to how quickly stone, brick, lime, and labor could be thrown back into a breach. By the Middle Ages, Constantinople had become famous for surviving. That reputation was real, but it was also dangerous. A city can survive for so long that people begin to confuse reputation with protection. Walls alone do not keep a capital alive. A besieged city needs food, harbors, storage, and above all, water. Constantinople had an engineered water system of aqueducts, reservoirs, and underground cisterns. The Valens aqueduct carried water into the city. Beneath the streets, huge chambers stored it in the dark. The Basilica Cistern is the most famous survivor. Its columns look dramatic today, but the point was not drama. The point was endurance. After the Nika riots devastated parts of the city in the 6th century, Justinian rebuilt on a scale that made the capital feel almost engineered from scratch. When an army waited outside the gates, the city above could still draw water from the city below. That is what makes Constantinople feel different from an ordinary medieval city. It was a fortress, but it was also a machine. Walls above, harbors outside, water under the streets. In 537, under Emperor Justinian, Hagia Sophia was completed. It was not built to be modest. It was built to make imperial power feel sacred. The dome seemed to float above the floor. The scale was meant to overwhelm visitors. For the Byzantine world, Hagia Sophia was more than a church. It was the center of ceremony, faith, politics, and imperial identity. Earthquakes damaged it. Engineers strengthened it. Dynasties rose and collapsed around it. The building remained the symbol people imagined when they imagined Constantinople. A visitor walking into it was supposed to understand the message before anyone explained it. This empire was old, wealthy, organized, and blessed. That mattered in war. To take the city was not only to take walls, harbors, and streets. It was to take the monument that made the empire feel eternal. Constantinople was weakened long before the Ottomans arrived in force. In 1204, the Fourth Crusade turned against the city. Latin crusaders captured and looted Constantinople, stripping wealth, relics, art, and confidence from the capital. The Byzantines later returned, but they returned to a city that had been deeply damaged. By the 15th century, Constantinople was still famous and still sacred, but the empire behind it was thin. Its territory had shrunk, its money was limited, its appeals for help from Western Europe produced too little, too late. The city still had ancient prestige, but prestige could not hire enough soldiers, rebuild enough districts, or guarantee enough grain. The walls still stood, Hagia Sophia still dominated the skyline. The name still sounded enormous, but the power behind the name had been fading for generations. In 1453, Sultan Mehmed II came to Constantinople with a plan built around geography and gunpowder. The Ottomans had already tightened pressure on the Bosphorus. Rumeli Fortress, completed just north of the city, helped control movement through the strait. Mehmed brought troops, ships, and enormous cannon. One of the most famous guns was associated with Orban, a cannon founder whose weapon became a symbol of the new age of siege warfare. The Theodosian Walls had been designed for an older age of siege warfare. Cannon did not make them useless, but it changed the rhythm of the siege. Breaches could be opened, repaired, and opened again. The defenders also protected the Golden Horn with a chain, trying to keep Ottoman ships away from the harbour side. Mehmed answered that problem by moving ships overland toward the Golden Horn, turning geography itself into part of the attack. The siege became a test of every system Constantinople trusted: walls, water, harbour, faith, and time. The siege lasted from early April to late May. The defenders patched breaches, fought at the walls, and waited for help that did not arrive in time. Before dawn on May 29, 1453, the final Ottoman assault began. After weeks of pressure, the defences broke. Emperor Constantine XI died in the fighting, and Ottoman soldiers entered the city. The fall of Constantinople ended the Byzantine Empire and closed the last living chapter of the Roman imperial state. Mehmed entered Hagia Sophia, and the city became the Ottoman capital. For the people inside the walls, this was not an abstract turning point. It was the end of a world they had been told was almost impossible to end. But Constantinople did not disappear. Its walls, cisterns, streets, harbours, and churches remained, absorbed into a new empire. That is why Istanbul still feels layered today. The conquest changed the rulers, the language of power, and the future of the city. It did not erase the city beneath it. The older city stayed there, under the streets, inside the walls, and behind the skyline. Thanks for watching Stone and Skyline.